Hey, hey,
Hey. Oh, and it says we're live. We got it right this time.
We are actually on. Oh. Is this Pirates of the Caribbean? Is that what I'm hearing?
It is. It is. Yep.
Tastefully done. Well played, sir. Well played.
Yeah.
Yeah,
always good time for those Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Super weird to me when I was trying to get through there. It switched me to the new view, and I don't know how to get back, so that was kind of funky. But hopefully you're seeing us over there on TQN. Go ahead and pick this up on there if you can get it off my feed, because I wasn't able to do it. But welcome back on a Wednesday. Thank you guys, as always, for joining us. Let me get some of my stuff out of the way here. Started on time this time. Had the intro and everything. Pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And wanted to give you guys another update, a shout out, if you will. As of the opening here, we are now up to 6,867 total views across all the streams: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Thank you guys for watching and enjoying. It's been a fun time just having you guys call in, comment, everything. So as I've said before, well, literally we could not do it without you, because someone has to actually view it.
True.
Tyler and I can only go back and refresh the page so many times to juice our numbers.
Lord knows we do.
But thank you guys, and I'll just give a little flasher there.
102 views away from the ultimate nice.
That's true. 69. So we're shooting for that 69 rainbow, because we keep it classy like that here on the show. I got a couple comments here. Callan checking in as well. Yes, that is in fact an Orlando Solar Bears jersey.
Very nice. Very nice.
That's old school. And how? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. People watch it sometimes in a moment of weakness. But I'll take it. Whatever you want to do, just click it, fall asleep with it on the page.
Yeah,
whatever.
How are we going to do it?
But tonight we are going to be joined by a friend of mine from The Fan. Obviously, we've had some of my other cohorts on these airwaves with you guys. Mr. Matt Skraby, who is the executive producer of the Gwynn and Chris program, 3 to 7, every weekday on 97.3 and obviously radio.com and all that good stuff. Here's a picture of Skraby and the boys out at Cooperstown. There's Trevor Hoffman there. We got the engineer there. The whole squad ready. So Skraby's going to get on here with us shortly. Couple things I wanted to just quickly mention. First of all, yesterday I got to golf again for the first time post Corona. I mean, he's still got to be safe and everything.
Of course.
It was fun. I walked it, which was kind of regrettable as of this morning, a little sore, but had a good time out there. Went with my buddy Ben, who's pretty amateur level, very amateur level like me, and Ben chipped in a 40-foot shot to birdie the 17th hole. And then immediately on the 18th tee, shanked 3 straight tee shots basically into the creek about, 75 feet. And he was all bummed out about it. But then he saw a hawk eating a rabbit and, stopped. It took a good 5 minutes just to get video of the hawk eating the rabbit. So I was able to capture that magical moment. This pretty much sums up how I golf.
That's all of golf. That sums up golf.
A lot of bad shots, 2 or 3 good ones, some Coors Lights, and then hopefully, you see a turtle or a hawk eating a rabbit. So I was treated to this moment of magic yesterday.
Golf, ladies and gentlemen. Golf.
With no regard for pace of play. Well, that's my guy.
No.
He's he's relatively new to the sport, so I'm trying to bring him along some of the etiquette things. But that was just too funny to. And there was no one immediately right behind us, so I enjoyed that. But and we'll have to check in with Skraby. I know he's a big golfer as well. Last thing, just before we get Skraby on the line here, just as a little bit of a segue, if you will. I know news came out earlier today. I think it was originally broke by John Heyman that Manfred and Tony Clark did meet in person in Arizona. Definitely seemed like things were kind of, getting a little bit more traction than just kind of the pettiness back and forth that we've been hearing. Some of that has been a little, sort of,
Refuted.
hey, cool your jets, refuted, walk back maybe by some of the players and other interested parties. But actually, as I said, just as a segue there, John Heyman was on the Gwynn and Chris program produced by Mr. Skraby today, so that was a nice get for Matt there. Which brings us to the, let's go with the Jupiter Records and Tapes Celebrity Hotline tonight.
Always a favorite.
Jupiter Records and Tapes, City Heights' premier destination for outdated music formats. We welcome into the show the one and only Mr. Matt Skraby, a.k.a. Skraby, a.k.a. Scrabelingus, a.k.a. Scrables.
Skraby Scrabster.
Yeah, a.k.a. Scrabraham Lincoln, a.k.a. Lawrence of Scrabia. I don't know. I'm freestyling right now. But Skraby, how are we doing this evening?
I am doing fantastic. That was a great setup. I have never been called Scrabraham Lincoln, though. So
Well, that's a free one.
That is
Yeah,
free because I've been called it all. So you finally found something I haven't heard in years, and I appreciate that. I have been called Lawrence of Ascrabia before. So,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
there you
dang.
go.
I thought that was off top, but,
Yeah.
I didn't know, if someone had, said that before. But I'm glad there's someone out there with a, sort of deranged
Like-minded?
mind on my same level.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't know if I would say
Exactly.
great minds. I stopped short of saying great minds because I'm just really weird. But thank you for joining us. Appreciate
Thanks
you,
for having me.
taking time. As we said, Matt does produce the Gwynn and Chris show on 97.3 The Fan, weekdays 3 to 7, which obviously, as you can tell, just got off the air, and there's a lot of work that goes into post-show, setting up for the next day, getting things on social media, promos, and all that stuff. So appreciate you setting aside some time to join us from actually clearly high atop, looking down over Mission Valley in the Intercom Empire Studios. As I said, just to start it off, nice job getting Heyman on the show today. Some other little, as everything has been with this whole negotiation, just now we get the whoa, it's not that cut and dry. But I enjoyed the interview, and that was a nice get on your part. So well done.
Thank you. Well, thank you
And
very much. It's easy when you have a guy like named Tony Gwynn Jr. on your show and Chris Ello because everybody wants to talk to Tony Gwynn Jr. and Chris Ello. Chris Ello has made his mark on the interviews and on the guests. But yeah, it was nice to hear from John Heyman and kind of get some positive news. But as some of you may know, I'm more of a glass half empty type guy. So I immediately we went from in 6 days we went from 100% of a baseball season to I'm not sure, and then 2 days later we're going to have a baseball season signed by this weekend. So I don't get it. I don't get it. I think Rob Manfred doesn't get it. So we're gonna have to wait until actually something happens. Like it's all talk right now.
I think pretty much everyone at this point, at least for this specific topic, is definitely glass half empty because everything has been put out,
It's been bad.
taken back. Yeah. And I think it was actually Chris in the part of the interview that I heard that pointed out, if this was the sticking point that they could just do full prorated salary, like why wouldn't they just have done this 5 weeks ago? So
It's a
that
great
kind of
point by Chris. Yeah,
did raise a red flag for me. Like if that was really all this is about, I just don't feel like there's got to be more than meets the eye. But like everyone, we'll wait and see.
I agree.
But I did want to sort of dive into because obviously I've worked with Matt at the Fan in various capacities on his show, doing Padre games, things like that, and I still honestly do not know a lot of the background as far as just getting into radio. I know you were at 1360, came over, and then I want to kind of get into just a few minutes of like the earlier days of Gwynn and Chris when you guys first kind of sort of just got like thrown together, like make it go.
Yeah, we did.
What was your initial, just impetus to get into it, or how did that
Well,
happen, getting into radio?
I guess I would always say that I've been a fan. There was a show on Rock 105.3 here in San Diego for a long time, and that show, was on since about 2005 to about 2010 or so, and I love that show, and it really got me into radio. I was a P1. I was listening every morning. I was recording on tapes the show before you could get podcasts or anything because I didn't want to miss any of the show. I mean, back in those days, once it went out, you could never hear it again. So I thought it was really cool that I was using, actual tape cassettes to record the show. But over the years, I just really love the radio format, and I really specifically love like the rock morning show format because it's just fun. I mean, you get to talk about whatever you want, really. Talk about celebrities, you can talk about sports, you can talk about anything that fits within the music genre, and just I really like to talk about nothing. Like Seinfeld, it's a show about nothing. I like to talk about nothing.
Sure. Right.
So like the other day on the show, Chris brought up a topic, which was he went to a party and he asked for a Diet Coke with lots of ice. They gave him a cup, it had no ice, and so he just went with it, and he just sat there and drank his warm Diet Coke, and he wanted to know what I would do, and so we took a good 25-minute look into the life of Chris Ello, because I needed to make it clear to him it's not okay for someone to not give you ice with your Diet Coke.
Just walk all over you, Chris. Come on.
Yeah, I know. I mean, but then he went a little too dainty because he got he wanted a slice of lemon as well. And I said, once you get the lemon, man, I'm out. I'm just going to give you the Diet Coke. I'm going to give you the glass with some ice. But lemon, yeah, way too much. But anyway, so I went to the University of San Francisco. I went to a few different colleges, got a real job in marketing, worked downtown with this job for about 4 years. And always in the back of my mind, I wanted to know how to get into radio, and I wanted to see what it was all about. So I ended up meeting up with one of the girls on the show, and she got me an internship with the morning show on Rock 105.3, and that's how I got in. And 7 years later, here I am. So it's been a crazy one.
Well, in my much more limited experience, I have found that to not always be the case, but a lot of times be the case that you just kind of show up at one point and then you just right place, right time. That's how it happens.
Exactly. You kind of have to go where radio takes you, because when I first got hired over there, it was as an unpaid intern. I worked for a year without getting paid, which was fine because I was doing what I loved, but it was getting tiring because I still had a full-time job downtown. I was also traveling 35 weeks a year, so I would be in Boston, get home at midnight, and show up for the internship the next day. So one day I just decided to quit my other job, cold turkey. Kind of scary because I had no other jobs lined up, but I did, and I had the support of my family. I'm really lucky. I had some money saved up, and I just went for it. So I went through that year of being unpaid, and then I got hired as the producer for the afternoon show with Carl DeMaio on News Radio 600 Kogo, which was a shock to me because I have never paid attention to a presidential election in my life. And the 2016 election, right. The 2016 election was the first one I paid attention to, so they kind of just threw me in there, and that's when I learned you go where they tell you to go on radio. You take all the opportunities you can get. It doesn't matter what format it is, you just do it.
Yeah, and things change very quickly too. It's just we just changed the host, but tomorrow it's a whole all new host. Like, oh, okay, or we just moved them to this channel. Like, oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It is very different. And Ron, you got in and you worked your way up. You were the guy who was saying yes to everything, and that's exactly how to do it. And unfortunately, something called a coronavirus hit. But I know. But don't worry. We're keeping your name in the loop, and we'll get you back.
I mean, I'm too blessed to be stressed, as they say. Hashtag too blessed to be stressed.
That's very nice.
I've been enjoying this side project here, and think everything's going to work. Oh, we got some comments pouring in. Skraby!
Oh, wow, look at that on the screen. Thank you.
He's getting love in the comments.
Oh, wow, another one. Where's the actual guy? Oh, there he is.
And
Callan McClurg.
Coming in also. A fellow Point Loma Nazarene announcer there. That's
funny story about Callan and I was asked to do some Point Loma Nazarene University play-by-play, and they went through everyone, and then they asked me because I had never called a soccer game or match in my entire life. And so it was one of those fun things where we did the game, and then I re-listened to it, and I found so many weird things that I said throughout the entire thing. I mean, it was me in a college soccer game, and I just said so many weird things. But I was so concerned about the people around me hearing me, because at one point I said something about the opposing coach didn't know he was standing like 6 feet from me, and he shoots me the look. But Callan and we did baseball together. He was the PA announcer, and they had me doing baseball, which I know more baseball terms. But Callan would sit next to me with like three other people in this small hut on the campus of Point Loma Nazarene, and I would have to talk to myself pretty much broadcasting. And I'm very self-conscious about that. And so I had everyone in that room listening to every word I said, and I was just a mess the entire day. So that's how Callan and I met.
So wait, so you said that was Point Loma Nazarene baseball. So did you, when you were calling the game, did you get distracted by that amazing view, or is that something you've just seen before and you've gotten used to it?
I did get distracted. I'm not going to lie. I mean, you start looking out there. It is. It's one of the best. I think they call it the most scenic ballpark in America for college ballparks. But what I found was it was way more difficult to call depth, see how far the ball was flying in the air, because there was no real background for you. You're just kind of watching it, and it's really windy. So in the afternoon, the wind's blowing back in, and the ball just gets stuck there. So a couple times I called a home run that actually didn't go over the fence, and I had to apologize. So
a home run to the shortstop on the dirt.
Yeah. I was like, oh, he got a hold of that one all the way to left field, and he's out.
He settles under it, and that ends the inning.
Yeah, exactly.
There you
But
go,
it was fun.
America's most scenic ballpark.
I did get it right. Good. I did. Carol B. Land Stadium. I know I said that a million times.
So, I mean, just kind of circling back to the backstory, how did you end up going over to 1360? Like you said, kind of the attitude of just be flexible, go with things. I know you're a big sports fan. And, that it would be a natural move. But how did that come about? Moving over from Kogo.
Well, it was all run by the same guy. He was the program director for the same station, so he already knew who I was. He already knew what kind of work I would do and all that. But for a long time, I told the sports station, I want in. They didn't have any spots for about almost 2 years, and then one day they said they were flipping the station, and they came to me and they said that they wanted me to be the morning show producer with Nick Hardwick and Judson Richards over there. So I jumped at the chance. I mean, that was amazing. I had morning radio and sports with a former Charger, and the reason that I think I got in was because I did Chargers radio here in San Diego for 3 seasons before they left. So I was the radio, or the what did they call me? They called me highlight coordinator is what they called me. So a very fancy title for something that just means you chop up audio and you throw it into a folder.
Nothing wrong with that.
Josh Lewin, for the first time saying my name on the radio, it was pretty cool for the Chargers. But I worked with one of the guys who was in charge of the Chargers broadcast, who was also in charge of the sports station. So he invited me in, and the rest was history there, where I went from Kogo to sports. So it was a good jump for me.
Nice. And that's, like I said, I've just noticed that more and more, like being in and around that business, just things move quickly and people get sent here or there, or like, do you want it? It's yours. If not, we're doing this, we're flipping a format, whatever. So that does happen a lot. And,
that's the advice I give to anyone trying to get in radio or anything really, is always say yes. It doesn't matter what it is. I was saying yes to everything in the beginning. I still say yes, even though when I don't want to, but you got to score those points with people. So that's just my advice, is to say yes to everything. It doesn't matter what it is.
Well, it's cool to me hearing that, because I've heard Jonas Knox, who's on nationwide on Fox Sports Radio. That's what he's always said is, I've never said no to anything when somebody's offered me anything in sports radio. I always say yes. I always say, I'll do that. I can do that. I can fill in for that show. I can take the job, whatever it is. So it's kind of cool, hearing that from more people that are within the business. If you talk to a lot of the successful people, they were the ones who did the shifts that no one wanted to do. I'm not going to lie, I definitely came into radio thinking, I'm so good, I'm going to be at a radio job and keep people
I'm going to be the host of my own show. And it just doesn't work that way. You have to toil away in the overnights or in the small markets until you kind of figure out your voice and figure out your style, and then you just work on it from there, and then you can kind of move up to the bigger markets. But it's not what people think, and Ron can attest, and I know, Tyler, you can attest now because you guys are doing a show. It's a lot more work behind the scenes than people think it is. And that's where the fun part comes in, and that also separates people, because a lot of, I've had interns that have worked under me who think that they're going to get on the mic like that, and it takes a little bit to do it. But if you have a good attitude and you're trying hard, opportunities will come. People will see it.
Show up, be early, and then just pretty much like you said, just do what they ask you to do.
And if you're Ron Davis, you show up with some random shirt that, like the Orlando Solar Bears,
baby.
They're called. It's the whole time. The whole time I'm waiting in the waiting room, I'm looking at his Solar Bears shirt. But he also brought tea every time. That's the other thing I remember. Ron Davis bringing.
Huge iced tea guy for all my iced tea fans out there. I used to keep Pure Leaf as my preferred, pre-made tea. A gallon of that in the fridge, so I could just stay stocked up. When we're in the in the meat of the Padres season. Ages ago when they used to play baseball. Makes me sound like a caveman, but
it is pretty nuts. Where we're at, it's pretty crazy.
It's a weird time. And even going to your previous point, when I started there, it was hired out of nowhere, just luck of the draw type of thing, and I was getting paid, not that much, but definitely worked a lot for free still, shall we say. The amount of time you have to put in is like way exceeds the, what you're getting paid for most of the time.
It is.
I know,
every
producing
profession.
a daily show, that's for sure, you're dealing with that on a daily basis. But I wanted to get into the Gwynn and Chris show, sort of how that came about. And I know you've told me before, it was kind of, all right, show up and you guys are the team now, so make it work. And just sort of the early days, kind of feeling out,
It was awkward. I'm not going to lie.
Chris and Tony and how it would work together.
I met Chris Ello as an intern at iHeart, and I've told this story before, so I'm not saying anything that Chris doesn't know, but I remember seeing Chris. One of the other things I learned early on was say hi to everyone in the building. Make sure everybody knows your name. So I was walking around saying hi to everyone, and it was about, 5 o'clock in the morning. Chris is getting coffee or water or something, and this is way before I knew him, about 4 years before I worked with him. And I was like, "Hey, Skraby, nice to meet you. What's your name?" "Oh, Chris." How Chris can be. and so I'm like, "Oh my gosh, who is this guy? He is not friendly whatsoever." I didn't say another word to him until we started working together because I was so scared of Chris. But when I came over from Extra, I came over for another job. It was a producer for the previous station that was here. We're not going to talk about that. And when they flipped it from rock to sports, they asked me to be the producer of Gwynn and Chris. And I had already worked with Tony Gwynn Jr. He had filled in on Extra a lot, actually, for one of the guys when they were out. So I had worked with them before. And it was really funny because I texted Tony the day that they told me we're all working together, and they also said, "Oh, by the way, you guys take the air at 3." And we're like, "Okay, great. All right, let's go. 3 o'clock. We have no plans. I've never met these guys, or I've never really met Chris." So Tony had no idea I was even his producer until I sat behind the board, and he was at Petco for the first show, and I hit the button. I'm like, "Hey, Tony, it's Skraby, man. It's so good to be working with you." And Tony was like, who is this? Who producer, huh? And then we finally figured it out, and he was pretty excited to have me as a producer. But we told this story for our 2-year anniversary show maybe a month ago. But the first show planning meeting that Chris and I did, I sat down with my whole list of topics, trying to be super prepared, trying to be the best producer in the world. And Chris, I hand him my sheet, and I'm like going through it with him. He goes, "That's nice that you did this, but I take care of my own topics." And I was like, "Okay."
Oh, no.
So that's how we started. But obviously, 2 years later, it took a little bit for us to get into knowing each other. I remember the beginning being really rough, really, really rough. Because we have a segment that's 25 minutes long without a break in it, and those were brutal. Those were ones where I was literally looking up on the internet the stories that have come out, and I'm just reading off of ESPN.com because we thought we had enough, but we raced through that in about 5 minutes, and we were just sitting there going, frogs or crickets are going in the background. It was bad. It was bad, but we figured ourselves out, and it's been good ever since.
Well, with the way the whole clock works in radio too, 25 minutes can be, that's a long time. That's kind of a terrifying thing to stare down when you're just sort of, especially in the early days, working out the chemistry, working out some of the bits or like set piece type things. I could see that easily. You're like, oh man, we crushed it, and then that was 12 minutes. So okay.
Yeah, that was only 12 minutes. We have 13 to go, so let me get on ESPN.com right now and find an article we haven't talked about yet. But yeah, and the way radio works too is like you're on an island until you can figure out where to go. So it's fun though. That's one of my calling cards, I guess, is to be as awkward as possible in the moments that we need to be awkward. So I try to do that. I try to
with
make it weird.
Oh, of course, we got a first Skrabalingus mention.
From the guy William Galvez
to Will.
Shout out Will.
Skraby drop.
We were told not to use that name anymore after a while. So
I wonder why.
I didn't think it was a bad name at all.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, like you said, you can call me as many things as you want to, but that one Will got in big trouble for.
I seem to recall something of that nature.
Yeah.
But in reference to Will and just in general with the show, you guys, like I said, just kind of get thrown together. It gets going. Like now you've had your 2-year anniversary show. I feel like the show has really hit its stride. You guys do a really good job every day.
Oh, thanks.
Coming up with stuff. You're pre-producing some of the intros and the segments as far as the layout of them. I know Thomas and Will both worked on the show. Unfortunately, everyone's on the COVID vacation right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think you guys really just got that thing rolling to where it's got to be easier, knowing. Obviously, you're doing a lot of prep before the show, but there is going to be, you can kind of tell. It's like, Tyler and I, when we started doing the podcast, we were already good friends, so there was a little bit of a chemistry there. But actually doing shows, then you get in 10, 20, 30 episodes. You kind of, how to steer people, what they're going to sort of tee you up for, that sort of thing. So it makes it easier to, there's going to be those lean days. Look at, right now when there's still really not that much sports going on. And you're looking, staring down the barrel of that 25-minute segment like, okay, but it gives you a little bit more ease knowing that you can kind of just roll with it and sort of just riff off each other and that sort of thing.
Being familiar with each other's lives and being familiar with what makes each other angry or frustrated, it's a good go-to to frustrate someone, because that will be we'll talk about it for 5 minutes and by the time that 5 minutes is over, we've had fun and we're like, okay, we only got 7 minutes to go. Here we go.
There you go. Yeah.
So
all this hot clock talk. Now I realize that we have 1 minute left. Big clock.
Oh
talk no! But
this was fun. It went by so fast.
Super grateful that you were able to join us. Apologies, I really wanted to get the Odd Thomas's NBA news and notes over here, but I don't know how the audio would work anyway.
Oh, it's right here if you want to hear it.
Let's give us a little taste of that. This is my favorite intro that Skraby ever put together.
I don't know if you guys can hear it, but we'll try.
Odd Thomas's NBA news and notes. Odd Thomas's NBA news and notes. Listen to the NBA news and notes right now.
Don't mess up.
So that's what I do for a living. That's what I do for a living.
And the voice of an angel, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Heavenly.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Definitely love any sort of reference to Round Ball Rock. That is amazing.
Yeah. That open still has stuck to this day. I mean, we still use it even though Thomas is no longer with us for the time being, and even though there's no NBA news and notes, we still just play it out of nowhere.
Well, there's no more fitting tribute I can think of to Odd Thomas. Shout out to Thomas Andrews, friend of the program. Than keeping that in the rotation. Please continue to
Of
do
course.
so.
Of course.
But thank you again for taking the time. Like I
Thank
said, I
you
know
very
it's kind of
much.
a time crunch right when you get
Yeah,
off
no
at
problem.
7 and you've got other stuff to do. So appreciate it greatly.
Anytime, guys.
We would love to have you on again someday. And
Absolutely.
Tyler, you got anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Just as always, keep the fire.
Keep the fire. Thank you. Skraby,
I like
we'll talk
that.
to you soon.
All right.
And
Thanks,
you guys
guys.
have a good night.
All right.